Right. Yeah, so in Israel, we had 0 kings that led in righteousness. But in Judah, we're going to run into a few that do. So Israel, altogether, they had 19 kings, but not one reigned with that righteousness. And in Judah, we have 20 kings. And like I said, it is only a few, but in those 20 kings, unlike Israel, we did have some that led in righteousness, and the number of kings that led in righteousness in Judah were 8 kings, and those rulers decided to do what was right before God. So, throughout this, we can... Hold on one second, sorry guys. Alright, so throughout this book, we can see that there were their highs and their lows, and there was a lot of judgment that went on. But 2 Kings, unlike 1 Kings, because of the positive rulers and the rulers that were doing right in the eyes of God, even though it wasn't all of them, it still causes the book of 2 Kings to end more on a positive note. So does anybody remember how we ended the book on 1 Kings with? What type of note we ended that on? Alright, so in 1 Kings, we had ended the note on a negative way, because that's where we found out that, all of the kings after Solomon, they were doing negative things, they were being disobedient in the eyes of God. And the difference here is that whenever we jump over to 2 Kings, we're going to see that over time that starts to begin to override, and we're going to end on a positive note of hope, because God has still preserved a piece of himself to allow this to happen. So not all is lost throughout 1 and 2 Kings, even though if you read it from the beginning to the end, there are times where you would probably think that all is lost. So highlights and lessons that we can learn throughout these 2 books is that King Hezekiah, he was one of the rulers of Judah, and he was one of the ones that was positive in the eyes of God and doing what he was meant to be doing. And he had fervent prayers. And those fervent prayers through Hezekiah, they were answered. Now there were many kings, but we're going to just go over this one here to show the difference in the 2 kingdoms and the type of rulers that they had. So Hezekiah, he was one of the few righteous kings of Judah. And he and his people, they faced danger whenever the king of Assyria invaded the land. But what happened can be a remarkable lesson to us because of the answered prayer that happens. So Hezekiah, he sent messengers to the prophet Isaiah, and they returned with a message from God. And we can see that in chapter 19 and verse 6, where it said, "Do not be afraid of the words which you have heard." So Hezekiah, he had a wholehearted prayer, and that prayer resulted in the destruction of the Assyrian army, and also 185,000 soldiers that were within this army, they were killed by an angel from God in one night. So it goes to show that even in the midst of the chaos and all of the bad leadership, whenever the king did come along that was doing right in the eyes of God, God honored that, and he saw that and answered those prayers that he put before him. So then the main thing that we can learn through Hezekiah at this point is the power of prayer that Hezekiah had. So the Bible records, and throughout Hezekiah's prayer life, it records many instances where God was able to intervene in the lives of these people that had sought him out through earnest prayer. And with that, what is something that we can learn ourselves? Alright, so I haven't heard anything from Sunderland in a little bit. So what is something that we can learn throughout Hezekiah's prayers and how God honored them?
If I'm honest, I don't know.
Okay, that's totally fine. That's okay. All right, so what we can learn from that and through Hezekiah's prayers being answered is that we also can have confidence that God hears our prayers as well whenever we ask anything according to his will. So do all of you believe that God can answer prayer?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I would hope you'd all say yes. So that is what we can learn, that even though, like I said a moment ago, even though there was all of this chaos and idolatry and disobedience towards God, we still had a ruler that came into play eventually that, he kind of switched that. And he said, I'm gonna serve God, and instead of turning to idols and turning to idolatry, and this time I'm going to give my fervent prayers unto God because I believe that he can answer them. And so that's what we can learn throughout that, no matter how much chaos and craziness around us in the world, anything that's happening, we can say, I'm going to make that turn and be the one to believe in the fervent prayer, that I can turn to that instead of these other things before me. So we can have confidence that God hears our prayers whenever we ask anything that's according to his will. So King Hezekiah's life and the lives of the people around him, they were spared through his heartfelt and through his fervent prayers. So that's pretty much your roundabout of 1st and 2nd Kings. And then Sister Joanna should have the slides sent to you all as well, so you can kind of go over what we talked about. I apologize that you didn't have them for the class today, but you can go over that yourself. And then also I sent a handout, which the handout we didn't really go over word for word today, but just so you can go over that in your own time, and you can kind of have that for notice yourself, and then study it for yourself of what you can get out of 1st and 2nd Kings, because it really does hold a lot of content, and there is so much that you could get out of it. So that is going to be the end of this class. So do you all have another class after this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And so that should start around 12:15, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So I hope that wasn't too crazy for you guys. This was actually my first time teaching, so you could probably tell on some parts. So
It's really good. Like I find when you interact, I stay awake more and I don't get distracted. So you've done really well.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's good to take note of that. So, basically, the historical books that Brother Beek has been teaching you all, Sister Jeanette and I are going to be switching them on and off. So she'll be teaching you the next one, and then I'll be the next one after that. So, but yeah, if you all just want to, once she gets those sent out, you should probably have them by the end of today or tomorrow. Once she gets that sent, you can kind of just go throughout that as you would like to yourself and see what you gain from it as well, because like I said, 1st and 2nd Kings, there's a lot of high and low points, but we can apply so much of it to our own lives personally. So that was that for the class. So I will go ahead and say that you all are good to take your 15-minute break, go get some food, go do whatever you do in your break time, and I will see you all in not the next class, but the one after that. So it was really awesome teaching you guys. So I hope you all enjoyed it.
Lovely, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I just need to see you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, what is, okay. Point and click.
this month at least one time. He's supposed to get.